Hello again, YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. And today is a lovely, sunny Sunday, and I brought the car down to New Aberdour Beach because what's better than parking the car up and enjoying all of this huge glass roof and a nice view of the beach, and let's just sit and talk about stuff. And what I want to talk to you about today is a fairly simple thing. I don't know how much range my car has got, and it doesn't matter. There's a lot of talk about range anxiety with EVs and how much range am I going to get, and people posting on Facebook about, well, I thought it was going to get X miles and I've just plugged it in and charged to 100% and it's only getting Y, and what's happening there, and it's not good enough and it's not what I expected. Guys, it doesn't matter. I've owned this car now for what, 9 months, and I've done nearly 17,000 miles in this car, and I've done a lot of long trips, multi-day road trips. I've done 500 miles plus in a day, and range isn't something that I ever think about. It just doesn't matter how much range my Model Y long range has actually got, because it honestly isn't an issue. Because if you are using the thing day to day, you're plugging it in at home, not all of the time, not every day, because for most people you don't need to. How many of your trips that you do are relatively short distance, in which case you do not need to be thinking about plugging the thing in all the time, because why would you need to? You've got bags and bags of range. This car will comfortably do 240, 250 or so miles from full before you need to start thinking about charging it up. I drove this car from Liverpool city centre to Edinburgh. It wasn't fully charged up when I set off, and despite the weather being so inclement that it was snowing on and off, I made it to Edinburgh to be able to plug it straight into the supercharger without the battery going flat. That's quite a long way. I will try and remember to put on the screen exactly how far it is, because quite a long way isn't necessarily helpful. The point is, that's a significant chunk of distance, and range didn't really come into consideration. You look at the what the screen is telling you, and you look at how far you've got to go, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. And the vast majority of the time, what we EV people lovingly call the guessometer, the how many miles until flat number, that in Tesla usually is pretty accurate. You don't need to look at it and think it's lying to me. Generally, if it says you're going to do 200 miles, then unless you start driving completely differently, you're going to do 200 miles. There is something though, while we're talking about range, that I need to make really clear to, especially all of the new people. Up here on the screen, I've got mine showing percentage, and I know quite a lot of you instead have it showing mileage, which, if my camera would actually focus in this heat, would be helpful. You see that? 146 miles off 45%. Now, you might be looking at that saying, okay, so Ian, that means you can do 320 or something miles. And on paper, you probably can. But the thing to remember is that the mileage thing is based on the official tested efficiency. That is not real world. If you want to see real world, go on to the chart and go into energy consumption and have a look. So in the last 30 miles average, I have done 230 watt-hours per mile, which is good. That is north of 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is my sort of magic number. So that's saying I've got a range of 152 versus 145. Sorry, that's on the 15-mile average. On the 30, it is 248 and 140 miles of range, so 5 less. On the 5-mile, because I have been on country roads and there's been quite a lot of downhill, I have done 96 watt-hours per mile, which means it says I've got an estimated range of 363. So what I tend to do is to take the lower of these, especially if I know I've been doing a little bit. You can see here on the 30-mile average, my consumption has fallen off a cliff as we have come down to sea level to get down here to the beach. So What that means is that 140 is probably actually about right. 140, 145. 248 probably feels realistic if we go to trips on here. And I know there is a shortcut, guys. A few of you have said, there's a shortcut, just press down here. I know, but it's more fun to go through the controls, especially for the people who are thinking, is a Tesla hard to navigate around with the big screen? It really isn't. But look, my lifetime average is 285 watt hours per mile. So what that means is divide 1,000 by 285 and you get 3.51 miles per kilowatt hour. This has got an 82, I believe, kilowatt hour battery pack, which gives me a theoretical maximum range of 287. Now, that's saying 145 on 45%, which obviously is going to come up with a bigger number somewhere into the 310, 320, something like that. The reality is, I would claim this car can do, I don't know, 250 before I need to be thinking about charging, something like that, I suppose, based on that 285 figure. Obviously, that is me collecting the car last September. It's now late June, and the weather obviously is much warmer. You burn less power in the summer than you do in the winter, just basically thermodynamics, really. So what does that mean? Well, I could set a figure and say, okay, it's 280, but realistic 250, something like that. But again, I really don't need to, because it's not an issue. And I really do mean that it isn't an issue. Range isn't something that I honestly think about with this car, and I suspect it's probably the same with most larger battery EVs, providing that they are not juice monsters like some of the Audis and Mercedes, where they go and drink your power at a ludicrous rate of knots. Providing that you've got a pretty efficient drivetrain and a big battery, you can go long distances and you don't really need to think about it. And how far can the thing go? Well, here's then the question. For those of you who don't have an EV, or have also then got a car with an internal combustion engine, how far can that go? Because I was thinking about that. My 2009 Hyundai i30, which I bought a few weeks ago as our second car and for being dumped at the airport basically while I'm away on business, I haven't a Scooby-Doo what range that car can do. Not a clue. You stick some fuel in it, you drive it, and then when it says you need to stick some more fuel in it, you put some more in. A lot of people talk about EVs as if, you have to know exactly how far it will go to the exact mile, because if you don't, you might run out. Well, really? You don't think like that with a petrol or diesel car. And okay, so some of you are going, Ian, but that's got a longer range than yours. And you know what? I'm sure they do. But you don't sit there thinking about what that range is or what that's going to mean in terms of fuel stops or something. You get in the car, you drive it, and when it says you need more, you refill it. It's exactly the same with this car. I really couldn't tell you on a day-to-day basis whether the range is going to make a difference or not, because if I'm on any kind of trip, what happens is very simple. I go into navigation, I put my destination in, it projects me a route, and it tells me when I need to stop to charge and for how long I need to stop to charge. And that's it. I'm not having to think about it, apart from, of course, when I'm shooting videos for you guys. And there it is. I don't know what the range is particularly. I can guess. It doesn't matter. Just get a Tesla. It's dead simple. And on that rather simple note, I'm going to leave it here for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, the bell icon, all of the usual stuff. And I'll see you very soon back here on Just Get a Tesla.